Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with over 100 cards, and 99% of those cards are bad. However, these bad cards have helped me create some of the most insane decks Edison format has ever seen. I've made OTKs, deckouts, infinite loops, FTKs, hand loops, and this normal monster control thing. And in this series, I'm going to push these concepts to their limits. I will be revisiting my cursed creations, updating their lists, and putting them to the ultimate test. 3 matches against only the Edison format meta. And the catch? I have to show every duel no matter what. This is Cursed Tech Revisited. Hello and welcome to Cursed Tech Revisited. In this series, I am going to be looking at the crazy decks of the past and trying to make those decks slightly more competitive. I've made a lot of bad decks, and after I make said bad deck, I have to immediately move on to the next bad deck. So in this series, I'm going to be trying to optimize those lists. I'm going to take a deck from the past, try to change it up, make it more competitive, and then face it off against the Edison meta. And what better deck to start out with than Montage Dragon? This deck is probably what I am known for the most. This has been shared around on the Edison format Discord, and the fact I am most proud of is that Carpath made 2 videos on this deck, and as a huge fan of Carpath, this was too exciting. So since the initial episode, I've been putting a lot of thought into how to make Montage Dragon better. And thankfully for me, Carpath had also put some thought into this question. You can see in his video, this is the list that he came up with. It uses more of the good Edison cards like Caius. It also has Card Trooper, Chaos Sorcerer, and the whole idea is it plays the game plan of Monster Mash, but there also happens to be this Montage Dragon finisher. I've also come to a similar conclusion. I think the original version of the deck and the version that I took to the RBET are both really good at one thing, and that one thing is OTKing, and they're very bad at bricking. Actually, they're very good at bricking. Let's just say when you're playing 3 Gate Guardians, you're gonna brick. And so what I've decided to do is try to make a Montage Dragon list that is more competitive. And I agree with Carpath in a lot of ways. I do think Caius is the way to go. And my main change that I've updated from Carpath's list is the inclusion of Exodius. This is going to be the version of Montage that I'm showing off today. You see, I think the strength of Montage Dragon is A, the fact that you can OTK with a 9,000 attack monster, and B, Gallus is an insane special summon and burn card. And I think when you start cutting down the high level monsters, Gallus is going to be burning for 2,000 a lot less. Exodius is a very good inclusion in the Caius version because not only is it a free special summon that you can tribute for Caius to get the Caius live, but it is also a level 10 for Montage Dragon, and it is a level 10 to mill off of Gallus, which will burn your opponent for 2,000. So, this is the updated list. Do you think that this list will be better? Do you think it'll be competitive? Let's test it out against the Edison format meta. This first match, we are up against zombies, and we've won the die roll, so thankfully we are going first. Our opening hand looks very good. This is a Montage Dragon hand if I have ever seen one, and we draw Trag for turn, so we're just going to pass. My opponent just passes right back, and that is a very bold move against the deck that they do not know is Montage, but my friend, you are facing against Montage Dragon. Say hello to 8,100 damage. Okay, so after that first game, I am feeling pretty good. Let's go on to game number 2. Our opening hand looks insane again. I'm telling you, the Montage Dragon is happy that I'm dueling with him again because he is just showing up all the time. But now they have a set monster, and if they did not have a set monster,
we could probably win, but that's okay. We're just going to normal summon this gear frame. This will add a force from our deck to our hand. We're going to go into the battle phase and attack over their pyramid turtle, which will get them out a goblin zombie from the deck. We're just going to pass our turn. My opponent's going to tribute summon a Caius and banish our gear frame, and then they're going to add a plague spreader zombie from their deck to their hand off of the goblin zombie. They're going to go into the battle phase and attack us for 2400 and then pass their turn after setting a card. We draw yet another Montage Dragon, which is very good, but we cannot go for the kill, so we're just going to summon this fortress from our hand, go into the battle phase, and clear their Caius. Unfortunately, this was just an MST, so we easily could have won the game that last turn, but I was too afraid, and sometimes you don't know if it's a bluff, so I mean, this is game 2, but I guess they didn't side out a spell trap. They didn't know what I was on. So that is all good. We will pass our turn. My opponent normal summons a zombie master. They're going to discard a plague spreader to summon back the goblin zombie. They're then going to use that plague spreader effect, returning a card from their hand to the top of their deck. They're going to make the classic zombie play of Bryonic, search Mizuki, discard the Mizuki to bounce. Just kidding, they have brain control as well. They go into the battle phase, and we have the Battle Fader, which is not too bad at all. They're then going to go into main phase 2 and use Bryonic to bounce our fortress back to our hand, which I am not complaining. And we draw for turn. The third Montage Dragon? Are you kidding me? I swear, every other game I play with this deck, I never see this guy, and then this game, all 3 of them just decide to show up. But I can't complain, it's Montage Dragon, and we have to figure out what to do. So because their back row didn't do anything last turn, we're just going to go for it. We summon this fortress from the hand, and then we summon the Montage Dragon, who is at 7,800 attack. We can attack over the Bryonic, and then we can attack over this Zombie Master, and then they are dangerously low, but we cannot kill them. We pass the turn. They're going to Mizuki back a Pyramid Turtle, set a back row, and pass the turn. We draw an Exodius. We're really hoping for a Caius, which is now in the deck, which could burn them for 1,000 by banishing itself, or we're also hoping for a Gallus. Either of those two, we're in an insane position, but instead we just draw an Exodius and we decide to pass our turn. The unfortunate thing about Pyramid Turtle is it's one of the only recruiters that does not have to summon an attack position, so we can never get through this unless we just keep attacking. We draw a Gores, we're just going to pass the turn, and now we're just passing back and forth. They're getting more back row, but hey, look at that, a Suzuki Samurai number 2. They're just going to attack over our Battle Fader, and here I know something is up, and thankfully we have the Suzuki Samurai number 2. We're going to normal summon that card and use priority, but unfortunately for me, they drew the Solemn Judgment, which can stop this card from activating, and so we can't attack. I mean, they could have Mirror Force, Deep Prison. Honestly, maybe I should have gone for it. Let's see. Oh, they had 2 Deep Prisons, so no, it wouldn't have made sense to go for it. My opponent's going to special summon Dad from their hand because they have exactly 3 darks. Not too bad for them. They're going to use Dad's effect after setting their whole hand to pop my fortress. This means Fortress's effect will not activate. And then they activate Creature Swap. And this has to be my favorite way I have ever lost a duel. I mean, creature swapping to steal my 7,800 attack Montage Dragon to attack into their monster for game. I mean, that is Yu-Gi-Oh! That is pure Yu-Gi-Oh! And that will seal up game number 2 for my opponent. Now let's go on to game number 3. Things are looking okay. I mean, 1-1 with the Montage Dragon deck. Our opening hand looks really good again. We've been drawing some great hands. We're going to normal summon this gear frame. This will search a fortress, and then we are just going to pass our turn. My opponent's going to set a monster, set a back row, and pass the turn, and we draw another gear frame. We're just going to summon that gear frame. That will add a force from our deck to our hand. We're then going to go into the battle phase, clear their goblin zombie, and then they're going to add another goblin zombie, and then we can attack directly for 1,800. We're then going to discard this fortress and pass our turn. My opponent's going to set a monster and pass the turn to us. We draw a Montage Dragon. We're then going to special summon this fortress from the graveyard, and my opponent decides to activate Torrential Tribute. I don't know why they did this, considering I could not have gotten through the Spirit Reaper, but because they did, I can now just special summon that Montage Dragon that I drew for turn, and my opponent is dead. I feel bad for them for that misplay. I mean, you know, that's just the way it goes sometimes. I still think we were in a pretty good position to win this game. Yeah, that is going to wrap up the match number 1. So Montage Dragon is looking pretty good so far. They're going to search their deck for a Blizzard. They're then going to set a back row and pass their turn. We draw a Cold Wave, which is not too bad, but unfortunately we can summon Montage Dragon right now, but it will not be game, and so I decided to just pass the turn and try to get some value out of this Tragodia. But my opponent has Black Whirlwind. He's going to search his deck for a Gale, special summon out the Gale, go into the battle phase, attack us for 1300, and we will drop this Tragodia. And this Tragodia has 3000 attack, but you know what has 3100 attack? A Bora with Kalut. And so they didn't search this, they also just drew the Kalut. That is fine. We take the 100 damage because this has piercing, and then we will take 1700 damage direct. They will pass their turn. We'll activate the Cold Wave, but I mean, this is not going to be game because we can summon this Montage Dragon at 9000 attack. But because this Gale has 1300, this will only be 7700 damage, which is not quite game. And when my opponent has Black Whirlwind, it is just, there's no coming back from this. We are effectively dead in game number 1. Now it's time for game number 2. Our opening hand looks very good again. I mean, we've got Witch Gallus, which is one of the best things Monster Mash can do. So we're just going to draw for turn and pass. My opponent is going to activate Black Whirlwind again. 2 games in a row. You gotta love it. Normal summon that Shura from their hand, search their deck for a Bora, special summon out a Gale, attack us for 1308. They're then going to synchro summon into an Armor Master. We draw 1 turn too late. We're going to normal summon this Witch of the Black Rose. This will add a Gallus from our deck to our hand because that is on top of our deck. We're then going to activate the Gallus, and then they think for a bit, but they let that go through. Then we make a Black Rose Dragon, and then they will activate Royal Oppression. That is very bad for us. We need to hopefully draw an out to that card. Thankfully, Gores can summon in the damage step, so maybe we can do something. Match number 3. We are 1 win, 1 loss. What will happen? We lose the die roll, and unfortunately for us, my opponent is playing Blackwings as well. But thankfully for us, they did not draw Whirlwind. They're going to normal summon a Bora, set 2 back row, and pass the turn. Our opening hand looks pretty good. We've got a starter and gear frame, and we search our deck for a force. I don't know, I guess I just thought I would manifest a Montage into my hand next turn. I don't know why I didn't search Fortress, but that's fine. We're going to go into the battle phase and clear my opponent's Bora for 100 damage, and then we will pass our turn. They're going to normal summon a Blizzard. This will summon back the Bora from the graveyard. They're going to make a Goyo Guardian and steal our gear frame, also dealing 1000 damage to us. Set another back row and pass. We draw an Eltonin, but that's okay. We're going to normal summon this Cyber Valley and pass our turn. Hopefully this will fend them off, but unfortunately for me, they have Book of Moon. So now they can clear the Cyber Valley, steal the Cyber Valley, and then banish both of the cards that they stole from us to draw 2 cards. And things are not looking very good for me because that is a very good play by my opponent. There's the Fortress. We're going to summon that Fortress from our hand, and my opponent lets that happen. We're then going to go into the battle phase, and we will get Dimensional Prisoned, which is fine, and then we pass our turn. My opponent draws for turn. They're going to normal summon a Bora, attack us for 17 and 28, and then we are going to special summon this Gores from our hand. They set another back row and pass the turn. We draw a Caius, which is not too bad, and this is an interesting spot to be in. So we're just going to switch these monsters to attack position, go into the battle phase, attack over this Goyo, and then we're going to attack into this Bora, but unfortunately they do have the Kalut, which is not very good for us. But in main phase 2, we can summon out an Eltonin, and this will send that Bora to the graveyard. But the Eltonin only has 500 attack, and my opponent can just make a synchro play into Dark End in order to seal up game number 1. Now it is time for game number 2, and thankfully we get to go first. Our opening hand looks fairly good as well. We've got some interesting cards, and the redundant Cold Waves is not too bad. We're just going to normal summon the Cyber Valley and pass the turn. My opponent is going to normal summon a Vayu and attack into our Cyber Valley. We can use its effect to draw a card, and we get a Force. And I really need to draw Montage right now, because if we do, we could be in a very good spot, but unfortunately we do not activate Cold Wave anyway, just because we can get in a lot of damage. Just kidding, they will activate Solemn Judgment, which in a way is a lot of damage. We're going to normal summon this Gear Frame, search our deck for a Fortress, go into the battle phase and attack their monster. They let that go through, and they will take 1000 damage, and then we will pass our turn. We're feeling pretty safe behind this Gores, so they're going to normal summon a Sirocco at 2000 attack, clear our Gear Frame for 200, and we draw yet another Zuczid Samurai. We're going to normal summon that card, activate priority to Cold Wave the field, no more spell and traps, and this is going to be very good for us because we can summon double Fortress, which will clear the field. It's not lethal through Kalut, but at least it plays around Kalut pretty nicely. But they didn't have Kalut, so we will take game number 2. Take an Armor Master and defense position and then pass their turn. We draw a Fortress, which makes the Orichalcos Shuneros slightly better, but I have no way to clear this Armor Master and this Black Whirlwind. I could make the greediest play of all time, which is special summoning Fortress from my hand, tribute summoning Caius over the Fortress to banish the monster, but then they still have Whirlwind, and they can probably get to Brionic. I guess I'm going to try and get value out of this Gores, but if you think back to the second match, waiting to use a battle trap, hand trap against a Blackwing opponent that has Black Whirlwind is very bad. So we're just going to normal summon this Witch. This will add a Battle Fader from our deck to our hand, and then we pass our turn. They're going to normal summon a Fossil Dyna. Yeah, you know, this is what happens sometimes when you're playing a deck like Monster Mash. Fossil Dyna sometimes is going to destroy you, and that is exactly what happened in this game.
Well, going 1-2 with arguably the most competitive deck I have ever made in the Cursed Tech series is, it's not a good sign. But let's talk about it. I think that although I didn't win the majority of the games, I went 3 wins and 4 losses, which is okay when you're going against Blackwings when they draw Black Whirlwind. But the thing is, those are the decks you're going to be facing in the tournament. Do I think this version of the deck is optimized? Well, that is a tough question because it gets down to the core of what Montage is and if it is doing what it is well. Montage is a Monster Mash deck, and if you all aren't aware, Monster Mash is not a top Edison deck. I think Monster Mash itself struggles against Fossil Dyna, Royal Oppression, Black Whirlwind, and I think the Montage Dragon element does only good things for the deck. That being said, this version of the deck that is optimized does take away one of Montage Dragon's core strengths, which is the OTK over your opponent's monster. The highest your Montage Dragon can get is 9,000. This means you are rarely ever going to be killing your opponent in one attack unless they normal summon a Sangan or a Vayu, or they've happened to flip a Raika. This puts the deck in a strange spot, but not in a bad spot. It just means that you're not going to be doing as many set up the OTK and then go for the OTK. And I think this new version of the deck plays much more like a normal Edison deck where you're controlling the game, you're trying to get at least one other chip damage first before you go for the OTK. Does this mean that maybe Zuczid Samurai number 2 is less good? Possibly. Maybe in the future I would cut down Zuczid Samurai to 1 in this version of the deck because it is not going for the OTK that ends the game. But I think that this version of the deck is definitely in a good direction. I think Caius is incredible. I didn't get to pull off the coolest thing with Caius that I thought of, which is you can summon a Montage Dragon, attack for almost game, and then tribute Caius Banish itself to get in the final burn damage. So I think the deck is really good. And that brings us to the Judgment, which is the section of these episodes where I reevaluate the previous deck and I determine if the deck is good enough to be moved in the tier list, basically. Although we went 1-2 in this episode, I still think that Montage Dragon is competitive. And I think the list is almost optimized. I think Carpath took it in a very interesting direction, and I think moving forward, switching out some of the bricks for more good cards will lead to a lot more success in the future. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode of Cursed Tech Revisited. This is a very fun series for me because I love these decks that I make. I love creating janky stuff and I love making it better. And it's fun to move on to the next thing immediately, but it's also fun to return and optimize and try to turn these creations into something truly special. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.